Are guitar amps still worth it in 2023? So we're going to contemplate the topic here a little bit. Stick around to the end if you want to hear a comparison between a real amp, a modeling preamp, and an analog preamp. So for the modern guitarist, these days we have tons and tons of options. First of all, you have what I'll call a real amp. What is a real amp? A real amp has a preamp stage where you often get the tone that you're looking for as a guitarist. It has a power amp stage, and it has a speaker. And there are different formats of a so-called real amp that you can get. First of all, you have to decide whether you want a combo, an all-in-one basically, or whether you want to buy a head plus a speaker cabinet. Also, you have to decide if you want your preamp to be a tube preamp, a transistor preamp, or a modeling preamp. Also, the power stage could be either a tube power stage or a transistor power stage. And then you have to decide how you want to deliver the sound, either by miking up a cab. Some amps these days have a DI, so you can go direct into your recording device or into a PA if you're playing live. Or if you have a tube amp, maybe you want to attach a load box instead of a speaker cabinet. And then, do you need an IR if you're going direct? Meaning, does your direct solution already have a cab emulation on it or not? And if you're not up for getting a real amp, another solution is to buy a guitar preamp. But there you're faced with some of the same choices. Do you want your preamp to be a tube preamp, or a transistor preamp, or a modeling preamp? Does your preamp come with built-in cab emulations or not? And if so, and if it doesn't come with a built-in cab emulation, well, then you need to try to find an IR, and perhaps an IR loader device. And if you are playing live and you want to monitor your sound, and you're just using a guitar preamp, well then do you need a powered FR speaker? Or are you going to go direct into the PA and use in-ears? And then the last solution you have as a modern guitarist is to skip all guitar-specific hardware completely. Just get yourself an audio interface and a computer, and just go the full software route within your computing device. So to answer our question, let's go through some of the advantages and disadvantages of having a real amp. One advantage, of course, is that a real amp, mic'd up in the classic way, gives you that classic sound. This is the sound that all modelers are based upon. Whether they're analog, whether they're digital, all of the guitar hardware and software that we have is just trying to imitate that classic sound of the real amp mic'd up with a classic microphone. And not only does a real amp give you the classic sound, but it also gives you that classic feel, which is so important for us guitarists. I know for sure that I've experimented with all of the different solutions that I've described, but there's nothing like the feel of playing through a real amp, especially a real tube amp. You might get a good sound out of a lot of these modeling devices, but it just doesn't feel quite the same, does it? Another reason you might want a real amp is to emulate your favorite guitarist. If you're looking to imitate the sound of a particular guitarist or a particular genre, you're definitely not going to do it better than by using that same gear that your favorite artist or your favorite guitarist is using. And another thing that I really like about real amps is the easy physical user interface. It's very plug and play. Just twist a few knobs to your liking and you're good to go. So what are the disadvantages of real amps? First of all, real amps, some of them are big and heavy. Real speaker cabinets, real amp heads, or some real combos. They're just a real pain to lug around. They got really heavy speakers, really heavy transformers. Real amps are the most expensive solution as well. If you're on a tight budget, maybe a real amp is not for you. Real amps can also be less reliable than the other solutions that I mentioned, especially in the case of tube amps, where unfortunately tubes can blow out at the very worst of times. Another problem with real amps is that they can just be too loud. I have a couple of 15-watt tube amps, and it's not easy for me to get away with playing them in my home without annoying my whole family. If you've ever played a real tube amp, even at 15 watts, you can barely get the sound to come on before it's super loud. What conclusions can we draw from all of this? Well, truth be told, each scenario has its place depending on your situation, depending on your budget. Of course, the cheapest solution is just to get an audio interface and use a computer that you have and just go from there. If you have a bit more money, you might want to get a preamp And if you have even more money to spare, well, you might want to start experimenting with real amps. And what is your tolerance for noise? Do you live in a tiny apartment with annoying neighbors? Do you need a completely silent solution? Or can your living situation tolerate a decent amount of noise? What is your tolerance in terms of size and weight of your guitarist solution? Do you have a lot of space for big amps, cabs, combos? Are you in a tiny apartment? And what is your preference in terms of user interface? Do you like having tons of options? Do you like clicking through lots of menus and tweaking your sound to the very finest of details like a lot of modeling software allows you to? Or do you prefer a sort of simple set it and forget it type mode where you just want a good sound quickly? Well, maybe in that case, real amps are more for you. And today, to help you decide which solution might be for you, we're going to take a look at 3 different recording solutions. In order to help you decide, I recorded one of the sections of the intro song in 3 different ways so that you can get a feel for how each of these solutions might sound. The intro song itself in its entirety was recorded with my orange Dark Terror head, going into a load box, which is the 2 Notes torpedo captor, and then using a cab IR in my DAW. I also recorded the second section of the song using the Line6 HX Stomp, which is a modeling preamp. And then I recorded that same section again using my Tech 21 SansAmp GT2, which is a transistor preamp. Let's give those a listen. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it or got something out of it, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos on recording, on guitar, on bass, on studio production, or if you enjoy listening to original music, subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support my channel, head over to patreon.com/JeffreySchmidtMusic. If you'd like to get the guitar and bass tab for the original music at the beginning of the video, you can grab it over at patreon.com/JeffreySchmidtMusic. And if you're interested in supporting the channel, consider becoming a Patreon and supporting me for as little as $3 a month. Thanks for watching. Cheers.